From the Fathead Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Man, am I still pretty? And he's like, you ain't pretty, but you're going to be all right.
And now I'm just hanging on, looking at the wall, like flying this way. And I'm like, oh man, I got to let go of this thing at some point.
And then there's one that could literally pick you up.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not really sure about that, but yeah.
That's called a helicopter.
Well,
And the last lap was just chaos. I mean, like 4 wide, 5 wide, dive bombing.
If you land it and send it into the fence, you're probably not going to get hurt. Bounce and then this insane roll the car that Keegan was in. I mean, I don't know, it's the shape of the Beetle or what, but that thing sent it.
So I was the supercharger specialist on my old man's car with
Specialist?
Robert White. Yeah, it sounds cooler than crew guy.
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Mario Andretti.
I'm Christy Lee.
I'm Alexander Rossi.
I'm Cruz Pedregon.
I'm Ryan B, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have a great guest coming on The Skinny here this week. I'm Ken Stout. That's Rico Elmore. Mr. Michael Young, the track dude, is in the house with us here, and a longtime friend of mine from short course off-road racing has joined us here on the show. He's actually in his home state, if you will, of North Carolina, so it'll come to you via remote. It is a brisk morning here in the Indianapolis area, somewhere in the mid-20s or so. So how's things down there in North Carolina, Mr. Ryan Beat?
Not much warmer, to be honest. It's high 20s here, so we're doing a little better. But yeah, it's still pretty cold. But we're doing
wow!
good.
I didn't
Hanging out at
realize.
the shop today and getting stuff done.
Didn't realize it was so cold down there as well. So if you're not familiar with Ryan Beat, he's a very successful short course off-road racer and very successful businessman at this point as well, and has done a great job of scrapping up literally from nothing, going to the races with a U-Haul behind the truck at one point, and has really found his way. I know, Rico, you and I were talking about it. I said, you said, tell me about this kid, and not really a kid anymore, 36 years old, man. You've been getting it done for a little while, but I said, he's a good friend. I've known him for a long time, but I really don't know his story. So I'm looking forward to some questions.
Yeah, same here.
So tell me, man, so what I always heard in short course when you started making your way there was that you came up through motocross, and that, I want to say, were you a factory test rider at one point?
Yeah. So I was a factory test rider for Factory Kawasaki, and did a lot of the setup and development for Ryan Villapoto, Chad Reed when he was at Kawasaki, Tim Ferry, a lot of those guys from late 2008 to late 2010. So, yeah.
Wow, so you don't just happen onto that gig. That clearly started off in your younger days. How did it all begin?
Yeah, when I was about 4 years old, my dad raced sprint cars and midgets. My uncle raced late models, pavement late models, the Southwest Tour, a lot of racing like that. My other uncle was a factory mechanic for Beta Monet, racing motocross and supercross and whatnot. And so I grew up around racing, was fully engulfed in racing. That's all that I ever knew as a kid. So naturally, that's what I wanted to do. So I started riding dirt bikes when I was 4 years old, and started racing when I was 5, and raced all the way up through the amateur ranks and into the pros, and started racing, supercross and outdoor nationals, and had some pretty good results. And at the time, test riding and development was kind of like a new thing amongst the teams, and giving, supercross capable guys a shot to do testing and development. So Kawasaki approached me and said, hey, we'd like to give you a shot at doing our testing and development. We've obviously seen that you got speed and got skill. What do you think about doing it? So naturally, I took the job. It was a consistent paycheck, and I got paid to ride my dirt bike. And I didn't quite have the pressures of racing and performance of getting hurt and stuff like that. But I got to still ride my dirt bike every day and train as if I was, going to the races. I even got to fill in at a couple races for a couple of the injured factory supercross racers. But yeah, so it was a killer job, and it was a ton of fun to do. Got to learn a lot about testing and development, and really honing the skills of feeling a bike or feeling a car and feeling what you're feeling inside of it, and knowing what adjustments to make. I contribute a lot of my off-road success to that, honestly.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And you said growing up in a racing family, I saw a little bit of a blip of your shop there. Are those wing sprint cars?
They're micro sprints. So we've kind of gotten recently into the micro sprint gig. It started off as just a fun thing. You know, one of my good buddies, Sheldon Creed, as many of you know who he is, convinced me to get in a micro sprint at the end of last season. And I fell in love immediately. I had not really done too much sprint car or, midget stuff. But when Sheldon got me in his car, I instantly fell in love. They're crazy fast, and really they're good seat time. So as you can see, we went pretty heavy in the micro sprint game now. I started with my car, and then the other cars I have in the shop are actually Team Chevy development cars that they keep in store here and have a guy maintain for a lot of the Chevy NASCAR Cup guys that they train in once a week. So, we got quite the micro sprint program going on here now too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where all do you run the micro sprint stuff?
Right here locally, we got the Millbridge Speedway, which is notorious.
Yep.
A lot of people race that track. And they just opened Mountain Creek for micro sprints, which is about 4 miles down the road. So there's quite a few tracks here locally that run the micros that we can get out and race a couple nights a week and, get that, special seat time.
Yeah, obviously moving there, in the racing mecca, if you will, and that certainly makes sense. You as a businessman as well, I would think that there would be some opportunities to expand in that area.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunities business-wise to expand, obviously, in the rental ride side of things, in the micro sprint, but for me, it started off as just having fun, really enjoying, just getting some extra seat time. And, as a racer, you want to race as much as you can in every opportunity that you get. So with off-road truck stuff, as you know, we don't race a whole lot. We race 8 to 12 weekends a year. And for me, it's not enough. I want to race more. I'm a professional racer, and if you want to make more money, you got to race more. So I said, let's throw in this micro sprint program. I'm having fun with it. I haven't gotten that real good at it yet, but we're trying and we're learning and having fun. And it's really about polishing the skill set and, sharpening my tools so that when I go to SST or I go to the short course stuff that I got every tool that it takes to be able to go win.
Well, the beauty of having Ryan Beat on our show is he is living, breathing proof that you can still get it done without being a multi-gazillionaire in the sport of racing. So we'll take a quick break here. We have a lot of questions for this young man as well. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more here on The Skinny.
You can make your house payment if you win. So the first weekend out, first time ever racing the car, I ended up getting second place. And then the second day, I ended up winning.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach, innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to the Fatheads Eyewear Studios here in Speedway, Indiana. This is The Skinny. We have Ryan Beat, short course extraordinaire driver here on the show with us, coming remotely from North Carolina down at his shop as he's preparing to run the 2023 season. And was just picking his brain a little bit. He got started off in motocross and picked his way up and certainly proved that he was a talent. Kawasaki picked him up as a factory test rider. And at one point in your career, you apparently injured yourself. You said you were filling in for some of the racers there and rode a couple of the Supercross races for them. When did that happen? Were you injured before you became a test rider, or did that happen afterwards? How did that all transpire?
No, it happened afterwards, honestly. That's how I ended up in off-road is I got hurt testing for the 2011 Supercross season at the Supercross track and made a mistake going down through a set of whoops and shattered my navicular bone, which is in your wrist right here. It's, also known as a scaphoid. But anyways, it's the hardest bone in the body to heal. It takes the longest period of time. It's what hurt Ricky Johnson, his career. James Stewart had that same injury. So it's an injury that just takes a really long time to heal if it heals correctly. So that happened, and it kind of derailed everything for me personally, mentally, physically. It put me on the couch for 9 months, and a good family friend. Yeah, so sitting on the couch for 9 months and wondering what I was going to do and how I was going to bounce back and if I was going to bounce back and whatnot. A family friend by the name of Kenny Osborne owned Black Rhino Performance for a long time, had some of these UTVs laying around, and was kind of starting to get into the SR1 UTV class with, the Wellers and whatnot, and said, hey, we got this car. Would you like to try giving off-road a shot? And honestly, my response to him at the time, like, I had no interest in off-road. I was a full moto guy. And, my response was, hey, can I make my house payment if I win? That's all I care about right now. I just need to be able to make my house payment. And he goes, yeah. He kind of giggles. You can make your house payment if you win. So the first weekend out, first time ever racing the car, I ended up getting second place. And then the second day I ended up winning. So it honestly, from that point on, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I can do this. This is a lot of fun. And it sparked my interest and just all of a sudden sparked a love that's just, man, I haven't quite felt it before, for a form of racing. To be so in love with racing, like I am with off-road. It was really cool, and, started a snowball that hasn't slowed down.
Yeah, that's all you got to do, right? I mean, you finish second and then win one, you're hooked again, right?
yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, you go out and I mean, that's amazing. And there's a lot of, I mean, there isn't crossover, but I mean, the course, the way it's set up, I mean, probably a lot of thinking along the same ways, that what on the bike. Is that crossover any there?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of crossover between the bike and off-road. Timing of the jumps with the throttle and the brake, the way you enter corners and carry the momentum is very similar to a bike. And reading the track, reading the lines and what the track's doing and how it develops every lap and changes. Unlike pavement, the dirt changes every lap. So you're constantly looking for new lines and changing up what you're doing with the vehicle or dirt bike or truck or whatever it may be. You're changing every lap of what you do to try to get the most out of the track and vehicle at the time.
So you're really on the leading edge of the UTV deal. I mean, it's since exploded, as you well know, and the fastest growing industry in motorsports, or segment in motorsports, as we sit here today, and it shows no sign of slowing down, but you're on the leading edge of that. And I read here four championships in short course off-road, and I know you won 2 in Pro Light. So did you win a couple championships in UTVs?
Well, we didn't win a championship. We've won multiple shootouts, or what was it, Challenge Cups in the UTV. Mm-hmm. I won a world championship at Crandon, and then obviously our Prospect Championship 2 years ago now. So.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's awesome, man. I didn't realize that you were so involved in the UTV deal when you were first getting in. What year was that? Was that 2012 or so? It
was end of 2011. End of 2011, right after I started getting healed up, is when we really got heavy into the UTV thing and doing the SR1s, and where I had won the Challenge Cup races. And then in 2012 is when the Hart and Huntington off-road team gave me a shot in a Pro Light. So
Hart and Huntington, imagine being with that team. I mean, you had to be excited, dude, rock star stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. That they gave me a shot. Good friend from Moto, obviously Twitch. Jeremy Stenberg was driving for them and was like, "Hey, you guys need to check out this kid. He's killing it in the side by sides, and is doing really well. How about we give him a shot and get him some help?" So it kind of evolved into, they said, "Hey, if you build a truck, we'll fund it for the season, going into 2012." And so that's what we did.
So what is Twitch doing now?
Just being Twitch, riding dirt bikes and building the brand of dirt bike kids and really doing a good job. He's become a very successful businessman. He's built a brand that's awesome and loved by millions, and just being a good dad and good dude. He's one of my best friends and has been for a long time, and we still talk weekly, so it's pretty cool to see what he's doing and still killing it.
That's awesome that that he opened the door for you to go into such a great team. Of course, it wasn't without, you didn't get to do it for free. You had to work your way there, of course. And, that bone that you're talking about broken, I broke the same one. So I know the program, and I have a titanium plate that's still in my wrist. Mine wasn't racing; it was drinking.
It's a dangerous sport too.
And it's found that you don't have to be on a motorized thing to really, really make it bad. So,
and with that, I think we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back here on the other side. We're going to ask him how he developed his skills to actually build a truck. This guy is a fabricator.
You really got to learn to fab and think from a fabricator's mindset or standpoint of how to build something that's going to survive the elements of off-road.
Welcome back to the Skinny here. We're in Speedway, Indiana. Ken Stout, Rico, Elmore. We have the track dude running the controls here this morning. And Ryan Beat is with us as well, has joined us here on the show. We talked about his early days, how he got going, and unfortunately was injured in the process, hurt his wrist. And we were just chatting during the commercial break. We learned something more about this injury. You said you actually used a bone stimulator that cut the time down. Rico talked about hurting his. He said he never heard of it, and I'd never heard of it. And then you said Rob McCachran borrowed it as well, right?
Yep. So it's a pretty cool tool. Obviously, they're quite spendy these days, and it helps heal the bone. Get your bone to heal quicker. A lot of professional motocross riders and athletes use them to cut down the heal time on broken bones and whatnot. So a couple years after I had done my wrist, I had a family friend, John Vance, who was very close with Rob McCachran, and Rob had gotten an injury and ended up borrowing our bone stimulator so that he could get back racing sooner too.
Did he win the championship that year? I mean, I just want to know.
I think so. I think it ended up winning the championship.
So part of that
year.
is due. So he owes you something. I mean, part of that championship.
a ring or something. I mean, geez.
That's great stuff. What kind of bone stimulator did you use, Rico?
Yeah, it was called take pain medication. I had a pain pump that went through in my chest. So no, there was nothing stimulating about anything that I was doing. So.
Funny how it goes. So as we were talking to you a little bit earlier, and we heard you say that you were surrounded by family, when it comes to racing, your father, motocross, your uncles and late models, clearly you guys were fabricating, cut, grinding, welding. Is that where the skills were developed?
Yeah, that's where they started a lot, was in our garage down in San Diego, where we'd be tinkering and working on race cars. A lot of times my dad and my uncle would be over helping. When Jimmy Johnson first started racing, circle track, they would go over and help him out too. So obviously, all being from El Cajon, there's a lot of racing history from that town. But they would go over and help him and, slowly into their programs. And then as I got older, they, became more involved in my stuff. So we were always in the shop building something, doing something. We started building the first SR1s that I got to race. And then when it went into the Pro Light stuff, I would say my fabrication level at the time wasn't quite there. Neither was my uncle's or my dad's. At the time, me and Robbie Woods were really good friends, still are. And Robbie said, hey, why don't you come up to Pahrump and let's put this truck together, and you might be able to learn a thing or two. So I went up there and spent, probably about a month total time up there building this Pro Light that I got to campaign in the 2012 season, and really learned a lot, really honed my skills. And then obviously when we got it back to San Diego, we went to work and just started evolving and building our program and building our fabrication skill set and really focusing on learning how to build these trucks and the abuse that they really take. These trucks are really one-off. There's a lot of stuff that I see now being in North Carolina that a lot of the cup teams and a lot of the fabricators do out here that would never survive an off-road. That just off-road is so unique, and the beating and abuse that the vehicles take. You really got to learn to fab and think from a fabricator's mindset or standpoint of how to build something that's going to survive the elements of off-road.
Yeah, I'd have to think that that beating and banging and, the jumps and, one of the interesting things while he was explaining that, I thought, who better to be the fabricator than the guy that drives it, right? The guy that drives it that knows when you go over this, what that feels like landing or things like that. Did that eventually come into play to help you out as well?
Yeah, it's funny when I look back because I feel like I've lived 12 different lives, right? And, obviously from the motocross days of the skill set and timing, and then obviously into the testing days where you train yourself to think about what's going on, and then into the off-road thing. I really think it's made for like the perfect storm, and I've been very blessed in the fact that, when I'm out there racing off-road trucks, now not only do I have the timing and skill set that I learned from Supercross and motocross, I got the, thought process of while being in the truck of how to make things better and what I can be doing better to the vehicle, from the side of thinking about what's going on in the vehicle and how to tune it, with my testing days. And then not only that, being able to go back to the shop and cut something apart and change it to what I want so that, I can make it better. So it's like, I've been very, very blessed in the fact that I lived all these lives over the past, in my past, that have amounted to making me that much better now in an off-road truck, where I think it's gone to prove that, we're a pretty lethal combination, with not only our truck building process, but me behind the wheel of, the skill set that I've been able to develop over the past, 30 years of racing.
Want to get the skinny on other guests and different types of motorsports? Check out our YouTube page and get the skinny.
Welcome back to the Fatheads Eyewear Studios here in Speedway, Indiana. Ryan Beat has joined us here this week on The Skinny. Great insight on what it takes to be in the world of motorsports, and not everything is IndyCar and NASCAR, Formula One, the highest levels. There's a lot of racing opportunity in some of the lower ranks, if you want to call them that, but competition is as tough as any ranks anywhere you want to go. Maybe I would even argue sometimes the less money there is, the less money it takes, the tougher the competition gets. Certainly the deeper the field gets, right? So it becomes more difficult to win. But great to have Ryan Beat with us, and a real success story for sure. And once again, we're chatting offline here while we were at commercial break. And Ryan, you said toughest year you've ever been in when it comes to trying to find sponsorship and get that ROI back for those sponsors.
Yeah, it's really a challenge these days, with everything that we have kind of against us, and here in the U.S. with economy wise, it's tough, and a lot of these brands everybody's gone to such a digital platform and social media based, that it's hard as a racer, that when your primary form of income is racing a motor vehicle, to all of a sudden become an influencer or social media star is hard. It's hard to build a following. It's hard to keep engagement and constantly posting fresh content, and it is a challenge, and it's hard these days. But it's just, again, it's how much work you want to put in, and how hard and how bad do you want it. For me, it's always been about chasing a dream and chasing a goal and wanting to get to certain levels. And it's, I wake up every day and have a set of goals that I want to accomplish that day on a short list. But then, like, you look at a expanded version of like what your ultimate end goal is, or I feel like you got to always have your end goal in mind so that you work towards that every day. And that's really kind of how we've kind of formulated our program over here, and just had our end goal and thought about our end goal every day of what we want to do and how we want to do it, and keep working towards it and position ourselves of how we get there. You have hiccups and bumps along the way with sponsors that you thought that you were family with that pull out, and all of a sudden you're kind of re-scrambling, getting knocked down on the floor, and you got to pick yourself up and as they say, come back for more. So, it's a challenge, but it's what makes it fun. You could be sitting, behind a cubicle, or you can be fighting for your life trying to find sponsorship and go racing. I definitely know
Fun.
that I'd much rather be
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah. Count me in.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so I own Fatheads Eyewear. We started it I started it in 04, and it's the same thing. And I talk, we talk to a lot of guys like yourself and gals, of course, on this show, and I'm always interested in how how you got into, how you've got to where you are, which, nobody gets to where you are today without scrapping. And you see a successful, business entrepreneur, nobody gets there without scrapping. I mean, there's very few success stories that fell in someone's lap. So, earlier we were talking about, you racing at Millbridge, and getting into that. And it's just something else to hone your skills or to put yourself out there even more. And, that's a whole nother community, from what you're involved with, if you will, daily. And I think that's awesome. And can we talk about Millbridge
been
now?
A ton of fun.
Throw it, man.
Yeah. So who all do you race with at Millbridge? Give us a little.
Honestly, the couple
of
of times
place.
I've been out at Millbridge, we're slow. I'm off the pace, so I'm there to learn it and get better, and obviously having a ton of fun with it. We've gained strides every time we go there. We move forward a lot, but any given night you can go there and see 5 to 10, 15, 20 of the top NASCAR Cup champions or drivers there honing their skills. So this is where these guys are doing that, and they're some of the best drivers in the world. There's so many people I hear on any given Sunday that are, I could be out there doing this, or this guy sucks or whatever. But you don't really realize how good these guys are. I mean, I was literally blown away and very impressed at how good these guys are manipulating their cars or hitting their marks. I mean, we're talking a quarter-inch difference quarter-inch difference in line makes a difference on the track of how they roll through the corners or roll through the center and get off the corner. I mean, these guys have really become masters at what they do, and it's cool to get out there and get behind them and learn. For me, it's about learning and transitioning what I learn over there into the off-road world. So when you go there and you get to learn from that caliber of driver, it just makes you that much better. And honestly, it's an eye-opening, and humbling experience. I'll put it that way, that, you get to go out there and train with some of these guys and really see how good they are. None of us really understand the level and skill that these guys all truly have.
So is your next chapter a wing sprint car driver then?
No, I don't think so. I like off-road. I know what I like.
I'm sure you'd love to take a crack at it.
Yeah, no, it looks fun, but I mean, those guys are a whole another level of crazy. I don't mind being up in the air. I'm not sure if I want to go sideways at 140. I'm good.
Great stuff for sure. We have plenty more to go here with Mr. Ryan Beat. We're going to pick his brain about his championships when we come back.
Being younger and having that drive and motivation of like never say die is what got me here, and kind of prove something to myself that even though as I get older and get deeper into my career, that if you still want to accomplish something, you can still accomplish it no matter the age. You just got to put your mind to it.
The Skinny is brought to you by American Coach. American Coach, innovation is our life force. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to The Skinny. We have Ryan Beat on the show with us here today. Started off as a young man in Southern California, made the very difficult move to North Carolina to keep the business going. It was a tough one. When you started off, Ryan, you were in a small truck. You went to the racetrack with a U-Haul behind the truck, and you were in Southern California. You started building your own stuff and obviously found some success, some momentum, but it still had to be a really, really difficult challenge to say, hey, I'm going to pick all this stuff up. Let's make the move to North Carolina and see if we can make this happen.
Yeah, it was by far one of the gnarliest decisions we've ever made. Business was expanding so much in California, and we had so much work, and everything was kind of flowing so good that I honestly couldn't afford to stay in California with the size of shop that I needed to continue with the amount of work that we had. And it just kind of was like this vicious cycle that I felt like we kept going through. Obviously, being in North Carolina, things are a little more affordable. There's a lot more technology here. There's a lot more crew help here. So for us, it was like kind of a no-brainer. This is what I want to do. I want to continue racing. I want to continue building off-road trucks for people. And, so we just decided, my sister was Miss Sprint Cup, and she's been back here in North Carolina for about 10 years. So we'd come back and visit, and my wife had fallen in love with it, and my parents had already moved back here 2 years prior to us moving back here. And we're like, family's already back there. It makes sense. We're racing more on the, in the Midwest and on the East Coast now with the way short course off-road is. Let's go for it. It's a little more affordable. We can, afford to own our shop instead of, paying a ridiculous amount of rent. and constantly trying to upsize buildings and upfit buildings. We just said, let's go there and build a compound, or let's build a facility that we can grow into and run for the next couple of years.
Yeah, a big move. I mean, we just saw Brian Deegan just did this move. I mean, there's been a number of you guys that have made that move there to North Carolina. And we'll take a look at your shop here and show us that place, because it's absolutely spectacular. It's a beautiful place, man. I mean, it's a big place. It's a big undertaking. You had to get all of your stuff from SoCal back over where you're at now, and then, of course, set that shop up, all the equipment that you need to be successful. You just said it a moment ago, you have to find help to bring in there and go to work, and then, of course, you have to maintain the work and keep acquiring work. It's a big animal, man.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking, and I think that, obviously I started this process, I don't know, it was 12 years ago that I had this goal that I wanted to own my own shop and build this really cool NASCAR level shop and do it right. So that's just what I work towards every day. But I think being younger and having that drive and motivation of never say die is what got me here, and kind of prove something to myself that even though as I get older and get deeper into my career, that if you still want to accomplish something, you can still accomplish it no matter the age. You just got to put your mind to it and really work your ass off for it. It was a huge undertaking, but I'm so glad we did it. I'm so glad that I gambled a little bit and took the chance to follow my dreams,
Yeah, that's the looks of that shop. It looks like you're well on your way to making it happen. But I thought one of the things that was interesting was, the crew people and things like that. And the other side of it is I had a move where, it was affordable to work out of for us to do to do what we were doing. And of course, your family being there as well. I mean, that's a huge part of it also. But, it's so how long have you been in that shop right there? Is 21? Is that what I see?
No, we've been in this shop. We've only been in this shop 8 months now. So we moved back here 2 years ago, but we didn't set up shop here. I just moved the family, and we rented a shop in Wisconsin and worked out of Wisconsin, and kind of slowly been transitioned. It's been a 3-year process, but by the time we bought the land, moved our family, started building the shop and kind of getting moved in. Yeah, we've only been actually working out of this shop for about 8 months now. And as you can see, we're still kind of getting organized and getting dialed, but it's just a process, man. It's like, we had to kind of look towards the future and where we wanted to be and plan for where we wanted to be, not where we thought we were going to be.
Great stuff for sure. We have plenty more to go here with Mr. Ryan Beat. We're going to pick his brain about his championships when we come back.
And I just got good at getting on social media and making sure I was being frequent and fluent and posting a lot, and keeping sponsors and fans up to date. We've grown it to where we have a decent following on social media for an off-road guy. But it's hard because it's like, I don't want to get on no TikTok and do no stupid dance.
Welcome back to the Skinny. Once again, chatting offline here during commercial break, and we get the best moments. It feels like, we're in commercial break because everybody's just chatting. But we were just asking where was the shop in Wisconsin. He says Crandon. If you're not familiar with Crandon, like you fly to Green Bay and then you've got to drive an hour and a half or so, and you said, man, it's tough to get a bolt sometimes. And it's like, what do? You go to the lathe and make one? And he says, yeah, or there's a tractor out back. You can pick that one, right?
You can pick it.
Yeah, it's gnarly up there. You got to plan well in advance and be prepared if you're going to work out of there, to have plenty of supplies and plenty of stock. And, on the fly for us when we were doing it, we had half of our equipment in North Carolina in containers, half of our equipment in Wisconsin. So everything was just kind of scattered. Honestly, it was kind of a big mess, but we made it happen. We did it for the year that we needed to do it. And just thankfully to be back in our shop. Like I said, we tried to build a place of, where we knew we wanted to go, not like what we knew we were going to do, So we upscaled the building quite a bit and tried to plan for the future and grow to that.
Yeah, I think Kyle LeDuc's story is fairly similar because I think his truck stayed on the West Coast with his crew chief, if I'm not mistaken. He moved to, I say L.A., Lower Alabama.
Yeah,
and and then, and built his shop and did everything there and eventually morphed everything over. But, yeah, it's a difficult move, so hats off to you guys about that. And before we go any further, I've teased the audience a couple times. Let's talk about 2018 and 19 back-to-back Pro Light Championships, man. A couple of incredible years there for you. You certainly proved that you are capable of winning the championships. I was always impressed with the way you did it, which was you weren't constantly standing on top of the box. It wasn't wreckers or checkers. It was a consistent top 5 effort. Put yourself in the position, end up on the podium more times than not, and snag some wins along the way. But it was that dead nuts consistency just week in and week out that really won you those championships.
Yeah, there were several years that, or both those years, the 2 championship years that we won championships, that we didn't win the most races. We had won 4, 5, 6 races a year each year, but there was guys that were winning like 8, 7, there was always somebody that had won more races, but we were just more consistent and honestly better racers at the time of placing ourselves in positions. Yeah, we may not have won, but we had a lot of way more seconds and thirds than anybody else. So we were super consistent on that aspect. Obviously, it's very important racing to be consistent. And I think that's what's helped us, obviously, with sponsorship, too. Not only just winning championships, but consistently being a top guy every year for the past 13 years has landed us in the point where, where we can, be considered a top guy in the sport, and sponsors want to continue to look at us.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. And I was just thinking about this. Something that Ryan said was, that gets it done for a while, but now the influencer and all of that stuff, and that is and he's younger than you and I by a few years, but it's still a different thing. I mean, he's done it one way. Ryan's done it one way to, up to the modern day era of, hey, by the way, we're going to need you to send out this many tweets, this many posts, this many that. And you're like, okay, I'm going to have to hire somebody. So run us through that. Who exactly, or how does that all get done? Because that is a job in itself.
Honestly, for the past, I'd say, 6 years, I've never been able to afford a social media guy or any of those things. So I just did it myself, and I just got good at getting on social media and making sure I was being frequent and fluent and posting a lot and keeping sponsors and fans up to date. We've grown it to where we have a decent following on social media for an off-road guy. But it's hard because it's like, I don't want to get on no TikTok and do no stupid dance. Like, I'm not 17 anymore, and I definitely don't want to get on TikTok and do dance. Yeah, like, it just doesn't sound fun to me or appealing.
The one on TikTok where they use the big air ram that that you get the tires to seat with.
Yeah.
Where they blow the pants off the guy working on something. Can we get something like that at least?
Yeah. So like that stuff's funny, and obviously we try to partake in some of these trends or whatever. But it's gone to such a different level with having to be involved with TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, and there's so many stinking apps these days that you got to be a part of, and it's a shame. It's like a necessary evil, I call it, right? You have to have it. As much as we don't like doing it, as much as it takes time, and now it takes a full-time media person to be posting and capturing content and creating content around the shop. For me, I got to the point where I was so busy, not only welding, but doing sponsorship meetings and laying out graphics and wraps and talking to drivers and sponsors that, I had to hire somebody that managed that part of it, where they come to the shop and they, create videos of me welding or me working on the trucks or the guys putting wraps on, and, to really try to engage fans and give them behind the scenes look at what we do here, is how we've been able to be successful and continue the sponsorship that we have.
Once again, we will take a quick break here. He's won a couple of very coveted awards in the world of short course off-road racing. We'll talk about that when we come back.
2023 is honestly have fun. In years that I've taken it too serious, where I'm just focused we don't do any good. But years that I'm just out having fun, relaxed, more of a relaxed atmosphere, and focusing on myself again. In the past couple of years, we've helped a lot of people.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach. American Coach, innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to the Skinny. We have Ryan Beat on the show with us here this week. Some great insight on what it takes to start from nothing and work your way up inside of the game and be successful. As we talk about that, he's been very successful with a number of championships, a ton of wins along the way, has moved up into the prestigious class of Pro 2. Very fast trucks out there. Very exciting to watch those things at speed and do the jumps that they jump and the way that they race. Very, very large class, very competitive. And, of course, you've been right in the thick of it there, Ryan. I want to go back to 2018 and 2020, though. Both of those years you won the coveted Rick Huseman Award, and it's one of those awards. Honestly, I'm shocked that you won it the second time just because it's so difficult to win the first time. But Rick Huseman, of course, a very dear friend to all of us, and we lost him way, way too soon. But you mentioned Robbie Woods a little bit earlier in your earlier days, an extremely talented fabricator at his very young age as well. And I would have to think that some of that led to that award, you know, that you won, the Rick Huseman Award. Not to mention, you have to have the personality, you have to have the race skill. The whole premise behind the Rick Huseman Award was he was able to do it all. Him and his brother did it all. You know, they built the trucks and they put everything together and they came up with the technology to make the truck fast. And of course, Rick was just on the edge of greatness there whenever we lost him, unfortunately. But congratulations to you, because those two awards are exceptional.
Yeah, those are probably mean as much to me as my championships do, honestly. You know, I think I'm the only guy to ever win it twice. And to win it once is such a huge accomplishment because, you know, what that award is about is it's about, you know, like you said, Rick did everything himself. Rick built the trucks. He went out and won in the trucks. He was a brand representative, had awesome, amazing partners involved in his deal, and he helped grow the sport. And so when they, from what my understanding of how they look at that, they give that award to people that kind of best represent, you know, how Rick was, and you know, that almost mimic themselves off of what Rick did and how he was successful. And so when they you know, gave me that award the first time, I was blown away, and obviously it was a huge honor to accept that award, and to be like Rick, or, you know, that people see me as like Rick, you know, somebody that works hard and still wins, but is a good, you know, spokesperson for the sport and for the, you know, the game that we play with this sport. You know, it's about growing the sport, and it's about being a professional representative of the brands that are not only on your truck, but the brands that represent and partake in the sport. So when they gave me those awards, it was, like I said, it was a huge honor. I think they probably mean more to me than my championships do at this point. I know they're, you know, if people don't know who Rick Huseman is or was, they definitely need to go educate themselves and, you know, follow his legacy, because he was somebody that we all strive to be.
Hey, man, real quickly, we've got 30 seconds here. Talk to me about 2023. What's the goal?
2023 is honestly have fun. In years that I've taken it too serious, where I'm just focused, we don't do any good. But years that I'm just out having fun, relaxed, more of a relaxed atmosphere, and focusing on myself again. In the past couple of years, we've helped a lot of people, and we've kind of narrowed that window down of focusing on just on 3 trucks. We'll have our female driver prospect program, we'll have my Pro 2 program, and then Maddox Bailey racing a Pro Light for us. So really just kind of honing in and focusing on having fun.
Great stuff, man. Ryan Beat, certainly a great ambassador to the sport, a great example for everybody out there that you can still get it done today. You just got to be willing to work for it. Thanks for coming on, man. We know you're super busy. We appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, and I appreciate the time. It's been fun, and if you guys like the episode, go give us a follow at RyanBeat51 on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good social media stuff. As like we talked about, all that stuff helps, so appreciate it.
Awesome stuff, and that's the Skinny on Ryan Beat.